morning.
(7:02 p.m.) This meeting is available in English and Spanish. Would the translator please give instructions on translation services available?
Buenas noches. Se utilizará la función de interpretación de Zoom para soporte en inglés y español. Todos los participantes de esta llamada deben seleccionar su idioma de preferencia haciendo clic en el idioma correspondiente cuando el anfitrión active la función de interpretación. Dicha función se encuentra en el panel de herramientas en el icono del globo terráqueo. El modo de interpretación para esta reunión será el simultáneo. Gracias por su atención y colaboración. Good evening. The Zoom interpretation feature will be used in this Zoom meeting for English and Spanish support. All participants on this call must select their language of preference by clicking the language when the host turns on the interpretation feature. This is found in the world icon located on your feature panel. Interpretation for this meeting will be conducted simultaneously. Thank you for your attention and collaboration.
For those of you joining now, please note that a recording is being made at the direction of the board and that the recording may capture sounds of those attending the meeting. The board met in closed session to discuss superintendent performance evaluation and to conference with our labor negotiator. No action was taken. We're on to item 6, comments from the,
Pledge of Allegiance.
oh, I'm sorry, we moved it. Okay. Please join me in saying the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Michelle. Okay, item 6, comments from the board and superintendent. Nancy, are you available to start? Would you like to join now?
Yeah. I have been engaged in community activities with America Walks project. I've also attended meetings of the local planning council and their executive committee, and keeping up with the time change of Florida to California. I've been doing things of catching up with slide decks and Santa Clara County School Boards Association activities. And I'll send in the exact things later. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Michelle?
I just wanted to acknowledge what's happening in Ukraine right now and just the heartbreak and awful things that are going on. It's a hard time for a lot of people there and all over the world too. So I just wanted to acknowledge that. And then switching gears to a happy note, I'm super excited that I now get to start volunteering in the classrooms again. I love being in there with the kids, and so I am excited about that. That's it.
Great, thanks. Isabel?
Yeah, well, it has been 2 weeks. Oh, sorry. Yeah, it has been 2 weeks. It has been kind of somehow busy. There are always the weekly meetings with the CSBSA. We have the meetings with the planning, the master planning, which we work with priorities for the first of the projects, following the priorities put before, but as the money is not going to be enough to have the first basic improvement plus SMS. There was like what is gonna be done with the money first, and then after the next phase, what is gonna be the second phase. So there was an emergency meeting led by Brand about that. Also, we had a meeting with the Health and Wellness Committee. There were two main things that kind of sidetrack the discussion, other than the typical, collaborations between all the sites about PE and wellness and what is being done and what are the programs that normally routinely move every other month to all the schools. There was some concern from one elementary teacher about the quality of the breakfast. I did tell them that, informing about the new overhaul of the project and how the lunch were gonna be way better now and everything. But, there were still the question about the breakfast quality and the sugar proportion and that, so that question mark and it should be also addressed. And then there was also concern for some of the elementary school PE teachers about the quality of the levels and the standards that the kids who got into 4th grade have. And so there was a lot of talk and passion. I loved how much they care and how strong they feel about what they do and the importance they put about the well-being of all our kids and the program, and they really believe in everything they teach. So there was a lot of passion, what to do, how we fix the problem. So they we talk about who is the person in charge of this. So they're gonna probably be talking with the instruction and curriculum person with some ideas. Open ended, no conclusions were made at the moment, but they were like some open ideas, and they were very interesting in going to probably dash of 15 hours.
Yeah, I think you said it was mostly the K through 3
yes,
teachers.
K to 3, yeah. So because even though they were sharing the new standards from the state about what were the standards for each grade, and then the teachers that were in 4th grade, that because we had already, we started in 4th and 5th, they were saying like they wanted some quality equally in each class. Well, kids, some kids have yoga, some kids run. It's very different depending on whatever they teach, how to use those 100 minutes, but they wanted to be a little bit more.
Yeah, we can't really discuss that now, but we'll bring that back. Mala's on the, virtually is here. She's nodding. There's Mala.
So it wasn't, just clarifying, it wasn't the K through teachers bringing it up, it was the 4th and 5th grade PE teachers bringing it up.
Yes, the PE teachers that they wanted some particular things in the kits that they were receiving, and it wasn't constant, and they wanted like some sort of, this is the base.
Got it. Okay.
There was some discussion about that. So yeah, that was it, the two bigger meetings.
Great, thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, so I sent in most of my activities, so all that's on there. I did have 3 updates for the board and the district. The first was this month I went to the Sunnyvale Education Foundation monthly meeting, and the Ed Foundation is in their planning cycle right now, which means this is the time of year when they go out to all the school sites and meet with the principals and ask them, the school sites, about their needs and how things are going, and just project ideas and things. And one thing that came out of this year's cycle was this really clear perspective from them about recommendations about funding and fundraising around Science Camp. And just across the board, there was a lot of discussion, and they actually had some recommendations. And what I said to the representatives from the foundation was, look, if you feel this way, don't have me be the messenger, like just come and tell, like give your story to the board as a whole. They can do it through email, they can come to the meeting, speak during public comment. And I explained about the process, and several of them are here right now. So that's really good. So they're gonna, the other thing is, I wanted to bring up is that CSBA sent out to people who signed up for Legislative Action Week. It's coming up next week, or is it week after next? Anyway, it's coming up.
I think next week.
Next week, yeah. And so our pacer, Marty Fatu, he's the Region 20 pacer, and he's been out on medical leave. And so I think that's why we got the information about the March 1 webinar on March 8th. So, but even if you're not going to participate in the couple of meetings that they've set up for legislative action, the slide deck is really good, and there's a webinar, and it will update you on all of the things that are in the California state budget and in the legislature that will affect schools in California. So if you can't find that email or didn't get it, let me know. And then
Is that a webinar different than the Ledge Action Prep meeting? Is that the one you're talking about?
It is a Ledge Action Prep
Meeting webinar.
meeting webinar. Yeah. And then the other thing is if more than 2 of us are in those meetings, did you sign up for those meetings, Michelle? And I think so did Isabel, and I'm pretty sure Nancy did as well. We should just pick, only 2 of us should be in those, because there's small discussions with our state assembly members, Becker and Berman. So whichever one works better. They don't have the Berman one set up. So I don't know if we discuss through, like, I don't know how we just have to schedule it so we're not in the same room. So those are my notes, and I don't know, how would I do that without a.
We can, that's just logistical.
That's just
stuff,
logistics.
So we can just talk.
Super.
It's just
Who's going to what? Yeah.
I just try
It's
to
good to be careful.
Okay,
For sure.
just check. Okay, that's it for me.
Points for being.
Dr. Gallagher.
Okay, a couple of announcements. One, I just want to take a moment and recognize the passing of Mary Barbara Zorio, who is someone who you may not know, but she really has been and continues to be and will continue to be for a long time, really one of the most influential persons in our district. And she accomplished that by coaching nearly every one of our principals and assistant principals over the past many years, I think maybe 15 years. She was a coach for our administrators. And she passed recently after really I was trying to think of the right adjective for it. I think really an inspirational is the word I would use, battle with cancer. Her practice and her coaching was really grounded in professionalism, compassion, common sense, and really a deep commitment to inclusion of every child. And she was just a really important member of our district, and she passed recently, and I just wanted to take a moment to recognize that. And this may feel like an awkward transition, but I think it's really an inspirational one, because the next thing I'm going to say is one of her mentors, Stephanie Fisher, who's right here, has been appointed as the next principal of Ellis Elementary School. And so we're very, very proud of her for that. So congratulations, Stephanie. And then Mary Barbara would be very, very proud of you. So that's my first 2 announcements. Next one, board office hours and community board office hours. The next time for that is this Tuesday at 5 p.m. We'll be sending out a Zoom link for that. There'll be another one on Zoom. I think Bridget and Isabel will be there for that. And the last thing I want to mention is, and I'm glad there are some parents here for this and certainly perhaps listening. This has to do with funding for transitional kindergarten. As most of us know, the state is over a period of the next couple of years moving towards universal transitional kindergarten. So instead of just a couple of months, all students will now be eligible for transitional kindergarten over the next couple of years. And so this is essentially the addition of a whole new grade level for public education. And I think you'd be hard pressed to find anyone who's opposed to that concept. What we really need help with and advocating for is funding for this mandate from the state for community funded districts like ours. So LCFF districts, so most 90% of the districts in the state get money based on enrollment and attendance. We do not. Our funding is solely based on our local property taxes. That's why we're referred to as a community funded district. The state has not provided any additional funding for this new grade level. And so AXA, which is the Association of California School Administrators, Schools for Sound Finance, which is a group that represents community-funded districts, and others are strongly urging the state legislature to include funding for community-funded districts for transitional kindergarten in the next budget. It's going to be a difficult fight, but I would suggest that anytime anyone has the ear of any legislator, please bring up transitional kindergarten funding, because that's a big cost and we want to do it well and we want to do it right. So stop with that.
Thank you.
So, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Now it's time to take comments from the Sunnyvale Education Association. If there's an official representative online, please use the raised hand feature if you wish to speak. Is there anyone there? No? Okay, not seeing any. Thank you. Now it's time for comments from the California School Employees Association. If there's an official representative online, please use the raised hand feature if you wish to speak. Okay, seeing none. Item 9 is comments from the public. This is the time to comment about things that are not on the agenda. This portion of the agenda provides an opportunity for members of the public to directly address the governing board on any item of interest to the public. However, provisions of the Brown Act Government Code 54954.2a and .3 preclude any action being taken on any item not appearing on the posted agenda. Time limits are allocated to public testimony are 3 minutes per person and 20 minutes for public comments. Speakers are asked to give their name and affiliation so that an accurate record is reflected in the minutes. And as a reminder, per our board bylaw 9323, the board shall not prohibit any public criticism of its policies, procedures, programs, services, acts, or omissions. During public comment, we encourage speakers to discuss issues with civility, to treat people whose opinions differ from their own with respect, and to focus on ideas, policies, and values. There's more. Okay, can I just ask how many people, do we have anyone online? How many?
Can you ask them to
Ask
raise
If you're interested in commenting on the agenda from your home, please use the raised hand feature so that we can determine the total amount of people who wish to speak publicly. None? Okay, so we have 4 people here. I have 4 cards. In person for non-agendized items. And so we can start with Katie Rowland. Thank you. And whenever you begin, Jesus is going to have the 3-minute marker. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Katie Rowland, and I'm speaking mostly as an individual parent, also on behalf of the Ed Foundation, but informed by my experiences on the board of the San Miguel PTA. And I'm here to discuss Science Camp and how it is funded. The district has decided that every 5th grader should attend Science Camp, and I agree with you all that having Science Camp as part of our curriculum offers students important formative moments that cultivate a sense of belonging through a shared learning experience. My concern centers around how Science Camp is funded. So instead of funding the program directly, the district asks each individual school to pay the cost. And the result is dishearteningly divergent funding experiences that reflect the realities of our economically segregated district. Here's the story of Science Camp from 2 representative students in our district. On Monday, Daniel gets a form from his teacher asking for Science Camp payment. He gives it to his caregivers, who send in his $370. A handful of students in his grade can't pay. Daniel doesn't know, but his school PTA provides scholarships for those students. Daniel goes to Science Camp and has a wonderful week. At another school, Ariana starts raising money in the 4th grade. Her teacher uses class time to organize fundraisers. Parents count money after school, and her principal applies for grants from community organizations. In 5th grade, Ariana continues to fundraise. Her teacher continues to use class time to fundraise, and after school hours to respond to parents and families who are worried they can't pay the $370 her principal applies for more grants. The lesson that Daniel learns about science camp involves youths and environmental sustainability and the joy of learning together. Ariana learns she gets those lessons too, if she earns them. Fundraising can teach valuable skills, but the lesson I'm learning is that the district is okay with requiring a program that some students are given and some students must earn. They're okay with the teachers at some schools using instructional minutes, not on art or time outside, but on counting chocolate bars. The district is complicit in creating a situation where schools with high populations of English language learners and historically marginalized groups have inequitable access to science camp. I ask instead that the district apply its own tenet of equity to the issue of funding science camp. Pause individual fundraising, which only exacerbates the realities of schools with uneven concentrations of resources, and fund it directly. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, the next speaker is Brenda Robbins.
Hi there, is this okay?
Yeah.
Okay. As mentioned, my name is Brenda Robbins. I am a parent, though of my 4 boys, 3 of them are now in their late 20s and went to Catholic school. My bonus child is now a sophomore in high school, having gone through Sunnyvale School District. He is special needs. He is our blessing, and because of him, he gave me the opportunity to become involved with and a part of the Sunnyvale School District family. I went to Catholic school. My husband lost the debate on whether the 3 older ones would do public or Catholic. I now happen to also be on the Sunnyvale Education Foundation. And during our last meeting, I was reminded that the school district does ask each individual school to ensure that no 5th grader is denied the opportunity to attend, but doesn't fund it directly. Agreeing with Katie, the result is a divergent funding experience reflective of our economically segregated school district, segregated district. Science camp for my older boys was in 6th grade. As a 5th grade parent, we did a lot of fundraising, and but the difference being that was done by room parents. There was very little staff involvement other than to approve our ideas and make sure we were compliant with school policies and protocols. My 4th son, he didn't have the opportunity to go to science camp. While the district may dictate or may say that no child is denied, there was not a path or an opportunity for the 5th graders in Mrs. Wood's SDC class to visit Walden West, even for a day, even as my son's peers at Bishop attended. I changed my notes everywhere. I get it. I get the difference in terms of my son's special needs, etc. But SEF held a roundtable back in February 2018, and I was struck by the fact that no staff or admin member came to our roundtable from a non-Title I school. We had science teacher and principals from Title I schools to explain to us what they had to do to inform us of all these class time that they spent on fundraising. And it was heartbreaking. And so I am here. If I can I'm here this evening to ask the district to join my fellow board members to ask the board to start a dialogue necessary so that the school district can fund science camp.
Thank you, Ms. Robbins. Okay, next up is Melinda Hamilton.
It's deja vu.
I'm Melinda Hamilton. I'm the president of the Sunnyvale Education Foundation. I also was the founding treasurer for the Fairwood Explorer Alliance at Fairwood School, which is not a PTA, it's 501c3, but that's the parent organization there. I was thinking about the roundtable that Brenda had mentioned, and that was kind of an eye-opener, I think, for a lot of us. And it was an eye-opener too for the district employees that were there, because they didn't have any idea. They thought that things were equal around the district. They didn't realize that some kids just got a check that their parents just wrote. And I know that science camp is a naughty thing. I don't, naughty and not naughty, it's bad. I don't know exactly what the bill is. I know our internal number was, and this was several years ago, was like 463,000. And over the last 6 years, the Ed Foundation has raised 99,000 and given it, which is not even a quarter of 1 year. So we have tried to do what we can. I know that it's an expensive thing, but I would really encourage the board to try to find a way to do this. And I was also surprised after that roundtable, we asked the district, what is the annual number? And nobody could tell us because it's in the budgets of all the schools. And I think maybe that's part of the problem is even if the schools are paying for it individually, at least calling that number out and knowing what that number is a big part in trying to figure out how to fund it. But it's just, it's heartbreaking to have this unfunded Band-Aid, and it just taking time away, especially instructional minutes away from kids who can least afford to lose them is a problem. And I don't know if there's a way to do district-wide fundraisers that help all the kids equally. I don't know if there's a way, I don't know how to I don't know what the answer is, but we would be, I think I'm safe to say I'm speaking on behalf of the board of the foundation, but we would be willing to help the district figure this out. That's what we do is we raise money, but we really need your support in making this equitable. If you guys are we've been talking about equity since we started the foundation, and this is something where I think the district really has an opportunity to walk the talk. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, and then the last card I have here is Ambrosia Stubbing.
Thank you, and apologies, I'm just gonna read my notes because it's been a long day and I don't want to mess them up. So my name's Ambrosia Stubbing and I have 3 students in the district. My 8th grader at SMS and a 5th and 2nd grader at Fairwood. I'm also a member of the Sunnyvale Education Foundation. My oldest did science camp and my 5th grader is getting ready to go next month. I went to school in the state of California and I also got to do science camp about 30 years ago. I don't recall what our family paid or if I was involved in any fundraising, but I do know that we couldn't afford what we're asking families to pay today, which is $370. I think it is disingenuous for the district to mandate a program like science camp, but then not pay for it, and instead push the burden of fundraising to teachers, staff, and families. And I ask that the district put an end to individual fundraising due to the inequities it perpetuates, and that at minimum, the district take on a share of cost. For Fairwood's 2 5th grade classes, the district is essentially expecting 2 teachers to oversee 60 fundraisers for $370 each, and that the principal will figure out the difference with her site funds, and the parent organization will assist where they can. Considering the time of paid staff, never mind all the volunteer hours, I'd like the board to also acknowledge the many hidden costs of labor involved in science camp fundraising, and then the unpaid hours provided by volunteers. Luckily, Fairwood has a pretty decent fundraising plan, and teachers happy to help if it means making science camp more affordable for families. As a parent leader for the last few years, I've noticed that fundraising success seems to be dependent on classes with the most volunteer participation and the best teacher to parent communications. And my own experience is my kids have been very successful fundraising because honestly, I've totally helped them. I've flexed my network, I posted on social media, I drive them all around, making deliveries, coaching them, etc. And I do this because I see the value in participating in a fundraiser, but propose the district not allow individual fundraising, rather program-wide or grade-level fundraising in an attempt to offer a more equitable experience. Of course, that means at Fairwood, our small school, which would have to work together to raise this year, $22,200 to send our small 5th grade class to science camp, which is more than half of our Fairwood Board Alliance budget in a pre-pandemic year. So when I think of school fundraising, I'm reminded of the time I was counting pledge money from a walkathon. I got a fat envelope only to open it and find it full of nickels and dimes and a few dollar bills, adding up to around $20. And this is the result of multiple pledges from the people in this one student's life. That year, our parent-teacher organization donated to the school an average of $75 per student for science camp.
Bridget, if you could finish your thought, because our time's up.
Yes, I asked the district, stop perpetuating inequality and consider putting an end to individual science camp fundraising, and that the district participate in finding funds for this mandated program.
Thank you very much.
So, as you know, this is a non-agendized item, so the board can't comment on it, and I'm probably not supposed to either, but I'm going to anyway. Public education is supposed to be free, and so I think you've identified a really important problem that we need to address. And what I appreciate is not only that you've shined a light on it, but also that you've come forward and offered to partner with us to help solve it. So, and then I also want to acknowledge that the parent that talked about the inequity with students with special needs, which is also something that needs to be addressed as well. We need to accommodate all students in our program. So I will contact Melinda because she's the leader, and you can hand it off to someone else if you want. And we'll put our heads together, and then I'll work with my team to come up with a solution for this. I don't know that we can solve it quite this year, but certainly for moving forward, because I think this is an important issue, and I thank you.
Thank you. Okay, public commenters are welcome to stay, but we are moving on to item 10. Ellis school presentation with Eric Tunisian, principal. Thank you very much for coming.
Okay. Sorry. Before we get started, I just very quickly, I wanted to kind of echo Dr. Gallagher's comments about Mary Barbara Zorio. I was fortunate enough to be one of the first.
Is it on? Is it on?
I don't know. It looks like it is, but it's not.
Just not working.
I was one of the first principals to benefit from her contagious positivity, and was very fortunate to very fortunate to have benefited from her positivity, and her inspiring me to not only do the job, but to actually enjoy it. Anybody who knows her knows exactly what I mean. And her positive attitude and her positive legacy is going to be felt with this district for years to come, knowing how many people she managed to touch. With that, let me get started. This is the first time doing this where I don't have the control to it, but there
you go.
Hi. There we go. All right. For our 2021-2022 school year, one thing I want to point out, as I mentioned during our site visit, was that this is a year that planning for it began long before the school year. It started middle of last year when we were on Anthill. It started in the middle of last year when we.
I'm sorry, Eric. Where is there? Isabel's noticing on the Zoom that there's not a translation feature available. Are you seeing it on your screen for the Zoom? The icon is. But is the icon available on the landing page?
Okay, because I just clicked the one that is inside the agenda, the link to enter the Zoom, but it doesn't show the. I mean, at least in this computer, it's not showing the.
No.
The link here.
It's a Chromebook, and
see-
Chromebooks don't do it.
I see it on my section in the
Yeah.
panel list.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, thank you.
Okay, no problem.
Okay.
Getting translated.
All right.
Thank you.
As I was saying, I think that the planning for this year started last school year when we noticed during the virtual lessons that we knew we were leaving some kids behind. We knew the virtual lessons in the virtual school of previous school year was one that didn't cater to all students, and specifically it was going to leave behind some of our most vulnerable students. And where we noticed the problem, where we anticipated there would be issues that we would have to address this school year, was specifically in our primary grades, where kids were not only missing out on the content, but they were missing out on the social elements of learning how to be in school. If you can, the one example we always talked about was that we had kids who left in the middle, well, second, third of their kindergarten school year and returned back to school as second graders. It's a very jarring experience, and we knew that our kinder through second grade students would have issues, not only with socially, but also academically. That's where they learned their fundamental basic skills in language arts, especially some of our EL students. We also had noticed that our older students might have been able to pick up some of the language skills because they already knew how to read, but math was becoming harder and harder to teach virtually, and we knew that they would fall behind as well. Now, fortunately, we were able to come up with some solutions for what that would look like this year, and at least in the language arts section, because of our kind of fortunate situation where we deal with Teachers College through Columbia, we knew from previous year that they had put together, sorry, I'm not used to talking too much with a mask on. We knew that in the previous year they had put together some virtual lessons to address the situation we were in, and we knew that they would come through again this year. They continued with some of the virtual lessons, but they also put together different units. We were already using the upper ladder units to support students in grade 3 through 5, but we also were fortunate enough to be able to partner with them this year with some new lessons where they specifically targeted skills that they knew kids would be missing. In addition to those, we've continued with our affiliate school training. So we're still adding the 10 days of instructional, 10 days of professional development for every student and for every teacher, in addition to the days we already have in place. And our TOSAs have been able to carve out their schedules for supporting kindergarten through second grade students in language arts and third through fifth in math. Okay. I know there were some questions about the data, but and before I go too much into it, I do want to caution you that while we were making this presentation, we were in the middle of the next round of testing. So the data we're looking at here is from August through October. So keep that in mind that this is bare bones beginning of the school year data. This isn't exactly, I didn't know this was so hard to talk with this on so long. The data you have here is from the beginning of the school year. The F&P is a data point that we have used before, but some of the other ones are new data. So I apologize for I can't really. We didn't notice as much of a difference. There is some variance between this and previous year's scores, but we didn't notice as much of a difference as we thought we would. This data point, the way it looks, is not terribly different, or it's not hugely different from beginning of the year F&P data we've had in the previous years. Even the gap between all students and EL, those are some of the patterns we've had at the beginning of the year, and we of course hope that they will we can address them throughout the remainder of the year. Same was true with the proficiency in other grade levels and math. Obviously, the math in upper grade, that was what you're seeing here with some of our worst fears of what would happen. That is something that we are addressing already, and hopefully, even with this particular, even with our current data points from March, we will likely see a huge improvement over what you're seeing in here. This 60-ish percentage in ELA is pretty much on par. We've kind of put a bookmark or a little pin where we were in 2019, and we want to hopefully get back to that trajectory as soon as possible. But that is sort of where we were when we left in 2019. Mid 60% proficiency is where we were, where we had moved up to from the high 40s and low 50s in the previous years. And that's our hope to get back there. But obviously there's a lot of work to be done in math. There's a lot of work to be done in language arts. And that's where a lot of our interventions hopefully have come to work. And I'm now going to hand it off to Mrs. Fisher.
Okay. Thank you, Mike, for your kind words earlier and for mentioning Mary Barbara. I was also very fortunate to work with her for 2 years, and she just truly impacted my life. And when I moved back into the office and my new office, I plan on having a framed photo of her on my wall to just remind me of all that she taught me and to do my best by students and staff. And with that, that compass guiding me, I know that I will lead the school in the right direction. So I'm going to talk about MTSS. MTSS at Ellis has definitely been an evolving journey over the last few years, aligning with the district's vision and just sort of revising our processes to make it more robust and to make sure that we're serving our students. So it was very hard in virtual school to have the type of MTSS meetings that we used to have, where we would meet in person and discuss students. But now we have our monthly MTSS leadership meetings where we have teachers who are grade level representatives, and we're spending a lot of time now, rather than talking about our process, we're talking about how we can support and serve students. So we're really trying to help teachers improve their tier one, their first instruction in the classroom, so that kids get it the first time, and then working on tier two interventions for students. Like I said, our coach is working on helping teachers with their classroom instruction, and then helping them with individual interventions for students who need more support. Eric mentioned our SEO TOSAs, who've really been focusing on literacy and math. Upper grade, they've been doing like short targeted math cycles to try to address some of the gaps that they're seeing, particularly I think with number sense. If you don't have a strong number sense first, second grade, it's really hard to continue as the skills get harder. You really need a solid foundation there. Our K1 has definitely been probably the most challenging kindergarten and first grade I've experienced in this role. It's like what Eric said, just because they did not have, our first graders usually are well trained by the time they get to first grade. Well, it was like they were back on campus, they're on campus for the first time, so there was a lot of routines and procedure building that kindergarten would normally do. But kids are kids, they're super resilient, and we're seeing a lot of improvements, and every day everybody learns a little more, and it doesn't matter. They're here with us, and so because they're here with us, we can continue to work on the skills that they need. We definitely could use more support in terms of having a social worker at Ellis to help with some of the attendance challenges, some of the social emotional challenges that, there are kids who have some big issues that we need a broader approach, more resources. I have been partnering with different social workers in the district, but having someone there who really gets to know the population would really serve us well. Especially in terms of like attendance, additional counseling. We have 3 amazing chat counselors. I'm so impressed with them this year. We're always full, so that's an area. In terms of attendance, I think parents are a lot more hesitant to send their children to school if they're earlier in the year, if there was a case, or if their child is sick. Parents are keeping their kids home, which is good because it helps spread all the illnesses going around, but that's part of it. And we've had many kids out on quarantines or extended quarantines earlier in the year where they were missing 2 or 3 weeks of being in school. And though there was independent study, that still can be a lot of days for some kids to be out of school. And I think for some of the behaviors especially in kindergarten, many of them had never been like in-person preschool or on a school setting. So for some, it was especially Ellis is a pretty large school. That can be a little scary to be away when you've been home with your parents for so long and to be in a big school where there's a lot of kids. But like I said, our kindergarten team, and they're in construction there too. But our kindergarten team has just worked really hard on teaching those skills. It's just taken longer, but we were out of school so long, we can't expect it to be an immediate fix. So I think we just continue doing what we're doing. And our kids, they make more progress than it goes exponentially with the growth that they have, which is just awesome. Equity has definitely been a focus at our school, and I want to say I have to give credit to some of our teacher leaders who have largely driven some of the work that we've been doing. The last 2 years, we have had some book clubs. We started with Be the Change by Sarah Ahmed, and this year we have a group reading it's called We've Got This, is that right, by Cornelius Minor. And so they're really working on equity through identity work and things like that. We've also been using our partnership with Teachers College to address some of that, and I'll talk about that in a minute. We continue to seek parent input through PTA or copy the principals and school site council. And I think now that we can have more people back on campus, we can get back to where we had, we used to have pre-pandemic, 60 or 80 people are attending our ELAC meetings, which was so powerful, and I would love to get back to that next year. We've also this year been including diversity walls. So each month we celebrate like Hispanic Heritage Month, or this month right now we have a diversity wall for the International Women's History Month. Last month was Black History Month. And I think it really provides a way for our families, multifaceted students and families can learn about different cultures and historical events. But I think for our families that are represented in some of these groups, it shows them that we're aware of who our population is, that this is important to us, and it's just a really great visual, and it just draws people there. So those have been very well received. So during the pandemic, we used virtual lessons from Teachers College, which was essentially one of their staff developers who have recorded lessons. Given the shortened day during virtual school, teachers were able to live teach, say, a reading lesson, and then provide a virtual lesson in writing so that they could continue with the pace. We have continued with those, but we're using it a little differently this year. One, it's professional development for some of our newer teachers who student taught virtually. This gives them they can watch lessons ahead of time and improve their teaching there. It also, we can send them to students who are out for extended periods of time. And students are very familiar with these, and they've been just a great resource. And it's a way that you can catch some kids up if they're missing something too. Let's see. Okay. We have a wonderful partnership with Teachers College by being an affiliate school or a project school. And what that means is that we partner with them for 10 days of professional development. They have also supported our equity and SEL by helping us with some PD to support trauma-informed teaching. So really focusing on students and teachers' identities and addressing this in the through the way we confer with students, which is part of conferring is researching the student and their reading or their writing. And so by bringing identity into it, it's just getting to know them on a deeper level and building trust. So that's been the focus there. This is one of our staff developers, Katrina Divino, and she has been instrumental in supporting our primary teachers. This was the first year when she's back. She came from New York and she did a day of PD with our K-1-2 teachers. We even managed to make it work with the sub situation by being very creative with how she worked with teachers. We normally have grade levels come in and we release, 5 teachers or so at a time. We couldn't do that, but we did get her in rooms, working with kids, planning with teachers. And then in upper grade, we, though our staff developer has not been out yet, she still has been supporting them in different units. And we are very fortunate to have gone to a training for test prep review. And so creating some units to help just build in skills that will help our students be successful this year when we take the test again. It's going to be new for all students. Our 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders have never taken this version of the CASP. So some good practice there. These are just some comments from our teachers. They are very enthusiastic about the partnership we have with Teachers College and the PD. This year we'll be sending several teachers to do summer institutes. They're all virtual, so we can open that to a wide range of teachers. Some of our upper grade teachers will be doing some foundational skills for upper grade students because we see some gaps there. Okay, we'll close it up.
Okay, a couple of quick comments before we take any questions you may have. As you all know, obviously this is my 21st and my final board presentation here at Sunnyvale. So I did want to take this opportunity to thank all of you and those who sat in those chairs in the past 21 years as I've been here, for giving me a career I can be really proud. I started in Sunnyvale back in 2001, and as I think I've shared with Mike, I started with the full intention of lasting 1 year. My wife and I were just moving from Los Angeles to the Bay Area where she grew up. This was the job I had, and I fully intended that after 1 year I would go somewhere closer to San Francisco where I live, and in a high school where I thought I would be more comfortable. That was 21 years and about 500,000 miles of driving ago. But the reason I stayed is because I pretty quickly fell in love with the kids, fell in love with the job, and felt like this was a comfortable home for me to build my career and do what I felt was right for kids. So I do want to thank all of you and Gallagher and the superintendents before him as well. For giving me that leeway and that freedom to be me, which is freedom they don't even afford me at home at times. So it's and the second comment I wanted to quickly make is my first year as a principal at Bishop back in 2005. We were in kind of a transition phase. Francis Dampier was moving to Sunnyvale Middle School. I was moving from Fairwood to Bishop, so we did a lot of hiring in between for other schools. And I remember Francis Dampier telling me that she'd hired some really great teachers that summer that I hadn't had a chance to meet. And my first day back at work, because I remember back then we used to start August 1st always. August 1st, first thing in the morning, I get an email from one of the teachers that she had hired saying that she knew that this was my first day, and she wanted to know if she could come in and introduce herself. And back then, when she first walked in, I knew this day would come. So I couldn't be happier for leading the school in extremely, extremely capable hands. With that, is there any questions? We're here, otherwise, this is a mic drop for me.
Yeah.
Okay, so, first, before the board, do you have any clarifying questions from the presentation? No. Okay, so, if there's any member of the public who wishes to speak on this presentation of Ellis, please either raise your hand or use the raised hand feature remotely now. Seeing none? Okay, board, any comments or things you want to say? Okay, well, Nancy, was Nancy there?
Yes.
Okay, hi. I thought I heard you.
I just wanted to thank and acknowledge you, Eric, for a wonderful career in our school district. Kind of there with you in the beginning. Remember seeing you in the community doing those walks from Caltrans over to the school and back, and wish you all the best in retirement. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Nancy.
You know, before we do the retirement part, like where I thank you for everything, because it has been lovely working with you. I did have a couple questions about the kids who are English learners at Ellis. Okay, and you know, there was the outline of how they're doing on the, you know, compared to the overall population, but I just was wondering if, like, you could provide, like, if you have a sense of, or you could provide, like, what the primary heritage languages are. Like, is there a lot of diversity in the lower grades? And then as you get into the upper grades, the kids who are the long-term English learners, is there still that diversity that there is in the lower grades? Or does it slightly shift? I'm just wondering what your experience, like how that's looking.
The one thing that I have kind of mentioned before also is that Ellis does have, by number or by percentage, no matter how you look at it, we have the largest EL population of any school in this district. Mm-hmm. That said, I've worked at Bishop also, and I know that while their numbers and their percentage might be lower, it's a very different EL population. EL population, a large portion of the EL population at Ellis are kids who are EL because they happen to speak another language other than English, not because they only speak another language. So it is a very different challenge. And yes, some of those numbers do, as far as primary and upper grade, I don't think there's a huge variance. The population we have in kindergarten looks very similar to the population in 5th grade. Where we do struggle is the population that becomes RFEP does look different. And we do have specifically our Spanish-speaking students who tend to make up a larger percentage of the EL in grades 4 through 5 than they do in kindergarten and 1st grade.
Yeah. Okay, and then like for the family engagement piece, are you, like, it sounds like it's very positive overall. Like, are those just as a baseline, are those events also like available? Is there translation available for those? There is, okay.
And it's the last few years have been a huge challenge. Mm-hmm. We focused quite a bit on our all of our EL families, and as Stephanie was mentioning earlier, we had massive turnouts for our ELAC meetings when they were in person, larger than I've seen, quite honestly, at any other school. That suffered quite a bit. I would hope that by next school year, things will start getting back to normal. But even for our most struggling students specifically, we did offer, yes, not only translation, but we also work with the Family Education Institute to provide digital literacy for parents and do what we can to, as I've always said, try to get parents' feet on our campus. I think that's extremely important to have parents be on campus, not just when they're picking up and dropping off their kids, but to be on campus, to feel that sense of ownership that this is their school. And I'd like to think we were doing a very good job of that before COVID. And I know that we will again once parents are more comfortable being on campus.
Well, I want to thank you and Stephanie for just always being open to, you know, me and the other board members for coming on campus and looking around. I know COVID, the pandemic overall is just so challenging and there are so many changes and you just were always very welcoming to us and like even before the pandemic, but I mean, just having us come through like every 3 months and can you show us this program and like what's happening with that and how does this work? And you were just very patient and you explained everything to me and showed me what was going on. And that made me feel very much more secure in our decisions that we made here together collectively. So I just really want to, and I also want to share with you that for any advocacy work that I've been doing, like at the county, the school board associations, like for the trustees and talking to people advocating for schools, a lot of times what we see when we walk around here, you know, at Ellis and at other sites, like that's really what informs my ability to even talk to them. So I just, you know, it's really made a huge difference and I think it's going to keep making a difference for a while. So thank you.
We're very proud of our school. We're very proud of our staff. So we're always happy to have anyone pop in to see what we see every day.
And I also really like your family food nights when you have those. Like, I appreciate you sharing that, Mr. Clyde. So, thank you.
Bridget, I'll just add as a parent, like I've been there almost 10 years now, and there's always been Spanish translation at like the PTO, then PTA meetings and the coffee with the principals. I've always been there since I've been there.
Yeah. Okay, anything else?
Can I get a group photo really quick?
Well, yeah, well, I'll just real quick, I know Ellis fairly well, right, since I've had kids there for 10 years almost. But thank you for the presentation, thank you, and I've said it before, but thank you for the work, and hopefully I get to see you more now that I'm allowed back on campus. And I just, like, it's kind of a neat, like, my first year with like kids going to school was your first year at Ellis. And with our recent move, because our house that we were renting was sold, like it might be our last year. So it just is kind of this interesting that, you know, anyways, just I'm grateful for the time we got to have with you. And excited that Stephanie will still be there, even if we're maybe not.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, just thank you for opening the doors. Yeah, that's been very special that we went. But I went and I saw with Bridget many times to see how the pandemic process was developing, and you were always open to us going there and asking questions and learning how can we help and how can we help you do better. And congratulations, both of you. You on retirement and you're in your new position. That's great. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, do you want a picture?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Really quick. This is yours. I know you're still around us here.
Okay.
Last time in the boardroom.
Last time in the boardroom.
No.
You will not be just in the back?
Yeah, that'd be perfect.
You want back or up the front?
We'll stand in
Front's
front of
better,
you.
yeah.
Where's the Ellis sign?
Right here.
Oh, perfect.
Right there.
Come over here. Yeah.
Is that gonna be okay with the?
No, I don't know.
There we go.
There.
We're on the other side of the house.
I'll just guys.
Cover up comfort.
Right. Yeah, the right number of people on
You
each
wanna move
side?
this? I'm gonna move this.
Oh,
Does it? Should we move this whole thing?
Sure. Should we also just talk that out? Yeah, big problem. All right, ready? 1, 2, 3. One more. 1, 2, 3. You want to do without masks if you're comfortable?
Yes.
Yes, I'm smiling. Can you-
I can see it in your eyes, but it's so nice to actually see faces. Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3. Got it. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, lady.
Congratulations, Eric.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Stephanie. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, you get.
Hang on.
You know, always text you on the 4th of July.
Oh, Fourth of July is always gonna be.
What's that?
We can still call them after another board.
That's true, we can make you do another board.
We will always talk on Fourth of July.
4th of July, we've got that. Sorry.
Okay, thank you. So now we're on to item 11, review and discussion. 11A is review and discussion of board bylaw 9320. Dr. Gallagher, superintendent.
Yes, there was some good questions about this in packet review. Essentially, the reason that we brought this forward was for the simple reason to change the start time of our board meetings, which is now 6 p.m. So our regular board meetings start at 6 p.m. So we changed that. And then it also gave us an opportunity to make the CSBA recommended updates, which basically have to do with the ability to change to virtual meetings in times of emergency. So that's the updates to the board bylaw 9320.
Okay, I don't see any public comment in person. If there's any member of the public who wishes to speak on this item, please use the raise hand feature now. Nope, okay, not seeing any. Board, any questions, comments, or areas, discussion or feedback?
Looks good to me.
Okay, Nancy, anything?
No.
Nope, okay, so perhaps bring it back on consent?
Sure.
Sounds good. Okay, thank you so much for your work on the update. Item number 12, review and action. The 2021-2022 second interim fiscal solvency report. We have Ms. Lori Van Gogh, Chief Business Officer.
Do not like this thing. Okie dokie. Good evening. How is everyone today?
Good. I think you have to turn the mic down towards you or make sure it's on because otherwise the translator cannot hear you. Thank you.
All right, so I'm here to present to you the second interim report. Oops. There we go. Okay, so these are the major revenue assumptions in the second interim report. Our property tax revenue is projected to increase by 4.4%, which is approximately $3.6 million. Our LCFF hold harmless remains flat at the 12-13 rate of 2.9 million. Our EPA is projected at 1.238 million. Parcel tax revenue is a little over $1 million. One-time CARES Act funding, which is part of the coronavirus relief package, is $4.9 million. And this is to support student classrooms, activities, facility improvements, educational technology, social, emotional, and learning loss. And based on the school services dartboard, our special education has a projected COLA of 3.1%, which is approximately $180,000. Our federal categorical revenue is projected at the 2021 level. Restricted and unrestricted lotteries projected at $228 per ADA, which is approximately $1.2 million. Based on the P1 estimate from the county office, our REA revenue is projected at $4.2 million and our lease revenue is projected at 5.6. So this is an overall look at the general fund revenue budget of $122.3 million. Property tax and state aid is the biggest portion of our budget at $97.7 million. Parcel tax and EPA is 2.3. Lease revenue is 5.7, which is 4.64% of our budget. Our CARES Act revenue at $4.9 million is a little over 4% of the budget. Federal revenue is at 2.2, just shy of 2% of the budget. State revenue is at 7.1 million, just shy of 6% of the budget, and our local revenue is 2.4, so that makes up the total of 122.3. These are the major expenditure assumptions built into the second interim budget. Certificated FTE, which includes SCA and SNAP certificated units, has increased by 6.3 FTE, which was for teacher FTE, and that's an increase since the first interim budget. Classified FTE, which includes CSCA and classified SNAP units, has increased by 3.7 FTE for health assistant FTE and child nutrition FTE. Certificate and classified compensation changes, which include step and column increases and negotiated salary schedule increases, are included in the budget. 21-22 STIRS rate is projected at 16.92% as compared to the 2021 rate of 16.15%, which is a 4.7% increase. PERS is projected at 22.91% as compared to the 2021 rate of 20.7%, which is a 10% increase. Based on the 2022 health and welfare rates, United Healthcare will increase 5.2%, and Kaiser has a very minimal increase of 0.005%. All carryover funds have been included in the budget, including categorical and local funds. So this is an overall look at the general fund expenditure budget of $117.7 million. $97.9 million of that is for salaries and benefits, which is 83% of the budget. $4.7 million for books and supplies, which is just shy of 4%. And $15.1 million for services and other expenditures, which is just shy of 13%. Included in this category is the extra support for child nutrition and for state preschool, the transfer from the unrestricted general fund to the special reserve fund for future technology upgrades, purchase of instructional software licenses, COVID-related safety equipment, as well as testing and special education contracts to support students' social emotional health. So this is an overall look at the ratio of revenue to expense. Our 21-22 revenues, as I said, is projected at $122.3 million, which is an increase of $3.2 million over 2021. Our 21-22 expenditure budget is $117.7 million, which is $13.9 million higher than 2021. And based on the assumptions in the second interim, revenue is projected to outpace expense by $4.6 million. So this is a multi-year look at the general fund beginning and ending balances. The 2021 ending balance is projected to decrease over first interim, due in part to an increase in the expenditure budget to account for school and department carryover funds, as well as an increase in the CARES Act funding. Salary and benefit savings have been incorporated and recognized in the budget, and these factors combined contribute to a $736,000 decrease in the ending balance since first interim. So this is an overall look at our unrestricted reserves, which is a combination of the unrestricted general fund and the special reserve fund 17. So based on the assumptions in second interim, we're projected to end the year at $43.5 million. $1.5 million of this balance in the special reserve fund is set aside for future technology upgrades. So our available projected reserves at second interim is actually $42 million. So just to quickly summarize, the unrestricted general fund ending balance will be $29.4 million. The special reserve fund ending balance will be $14.1 million. So our total unrestricted reserves at year's end will be approximately 37%. The multi-year projections all have positive ending balances, and we will maintain our basic aid status.
Thank you. Is there any member of the public who wishes to comment on this item? If you're at home, please use the raised hand feature now. Nope, seeing none. Board, any questions or clarifying questions before we have a motion? Because we,
Can I make a motion?
do you have any clarifying questions before a motion? So seeing none, board, do we have a motion?
I move that we approve the second interim fiscal solvency report.
I'll second that.
Okay, who's seconding? You both said it in unison.
I can do it, yeah.
Eeny, meeny, miny, moe.
I'll go for it.
Okay, Isabel seconds it. Thank you though, Nancy. Any discussion?
As always, thank you for all the great work.
You're welcome. My pleasure.
Yes, thank you. Okay, seeing none, we will vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye, and with that, the motion passes.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate
Thanks,
it.
Lori.
Thank you, Lori.
Okay, for number 13, consent agenda items. Any item on the consent agenda is subject to review and discussion prior to being approved by the board. If necessary, any items may be removed for separate action. The public may address the board regarding any items on the consent agenda. I wrote this down wrong. Do we have this public speak before? Yeah, we do, okay. If there's any member of the public who wishes to speak on this item, please use the raised hand feature now. Anyone there? No, okay, would the board,
I move approval of the consent agenda.
I second.
okay, any questions or comments? No, all those in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, the consent agenda is passed. Thank you. Item 14, future meetings and adjournment. Our next meeting will be Thursday, March 24th at 6 p.m. The governance board meeting, district office boardroom. This meeting is adjourned at 8:18 p.m. All right. It's a wrap. Yay.
It's like the old.
Is that first?
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Leah. Bye. See you next time.
Thank you, everyone. See you.